Dr. Kim Daeho stared at the holographic display showing the dead planet below his ship. The surface looked like burned glass, smooth and black under the light of two distant suns. Nothing moved down there. Nothing lived down there. Nothing except the creature that had made the entire Galactic Council shake with fear. "Are you sure about this, Dr. Kim?" asked Captain Park Jimin through the communication system. His voice came from the safety of the command ship, 300,000 kilometers away. "We could just observe from orbit. Write a report. Say it was too dangerous to make contact." Daeho touched the controls of his small research vessel. The ship was barely larger than an Earth shuttle, with basic life support and no weapons. He had insisted on no weapons. Every species that had tried to fight Vexithara had been destroyed completely. "The Council needs to know if peaceful contact is possible," Daeho said. "Running away won't give us those answers." He had been studying the reports for 3 months. 17 different species had encountered Vexithara over the past 50 years. Some had tried to communicate. Most had tried to kill it first. All of them had failed. The creature stood 12 feet tall with black scales that seemed to eat light. It could read minds from across star systems. It could tear through metal with its bare hands. It could move faster than most starships. The Zentari Empire had sent their entire 5th fleet to destroy it. Vexithara had scattered them across 3 solar systems in less than an hour. The survivors reported that the creature had not seemed angry or evil. It had simply defended itself with overwhelming force. "Beginning descent," Daeho announced. The small ship dropped through the thin atmosphere. The planet had once been green and blue like Earth. Now it was a wasteland. Vexithara had not destroyed it. The previous inhabitants had done that to themselves in some ancient war. The creature had simply chosen this empty world as its home. Daeho landed his ship in a wide valley between 2 mountain ranges. The ground was flat and clear. Nothing could hide here. Nothing could surprise anyone here. He sat in his pilot seat for several minutes, checking his equipment one more time. His universal translator was working perfectly. His environmental suit would protect him from the thin air and cold temperatures. His recording devices would capture everything that happened. His emergency beacon would call for help if needed, though help would not arrive in time to save him if things went wrong. "Vexithara is approximately 2 kilometers north of your position," came the voice of Dr. Lee Sunwoo from the command ship. She was monitoring all the sensor readings. "It appears to be stationary, just standing there." Daeho nodded and checked his suit one final time. The helmet sealed properly. The oxygen supply was full. The temperature controls were set. He walked to the airlock and paused with his hand on the door controls. Every report said that Vexithara killed anything that came near it. But those same reports mentioned something interesting. The creature always waited. It never attacked first. It watched and waited until the other side made the first move. Usually that first move was violence. Daeho was not going to make that mistake. He opened the airlock and stepped onto the surface of the dead world. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal. Each step felt like walking on a moon. The ground crunched under his boots like broken glass. The air outside his helmet looked thin and cold. He walked north toward the creature's location. His boots left clear footprints in the dusty soil. Anyone watching could see exactly where he had been and where he was going. That was good. No surprises. No hidden intentions. The landscape was empty and silent. No birds, no insects. No plants, just endless fields of black stone under a pale sky. The 2 suns hung low on the horizon, giving everything a strange orange light. After 20 minutes of walking, Daeho saw it. Vexithara stood on a small hill about 500 meters away. The creature was exactly as the reports described, but somehow more impressive in person. 12 feet tall with a body like a massive humanoid dragon. Its black scales reflected the sunlight in strange ways. Its arms were longer than human proportions, ending in hands with 6 fingers tipped by claws. Its head was shaped like a triangle with large eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. The creature was looking directly at him. Daeho stopped walking and raised both hands to show they were empty. He spoke clearly into his translator. "Hello. My name is Kim Daeho. I am from the planet Earth. I came here to meet you." The translator converted his words into a series of harmonic tones. Other species had reported that Vexithara communicated through sound frequencies that most beings could not hear naturally. Vexithara tilted its massive head to one side. The glowing eyes studied Daeho for a long moment. Then the creature did something unexpected. It sat down. A 12-foot-tall apex predator that had destroyed entire fleets simply sat down on the hillside like a curious animal, watching something new. Daeho felt his heart rate slow down slightly. This was not the behavior of something preparing to attack. He took a careful step forward. "I am a scientist," he continued. "I study different forms of life. I have traveled very far to learn about you." Vexthara remained seated, but its head moved to track Daeho's slow approach. The creature made no threatening gestures. It simply watched and listened. "Many species are afraid of you," Daeho said honestly. "They think you are dangerous. But I believe there has been a misunderstanding. I believe you are not evil. I believe you are just trying to protect yourself." The translator worked both ways. If Vexthara responded, Daeho would hear it in Korean. But the creature remained silent. Daeho stopped when he was about 50 meters away, close enough to show trust, far enough to run if necessary, though running would not help if this creature decided to kill him. "I would like to understand you," he said. "I would like to learn about your life, your thoughts, your experiences. I promise I will not try to hurt you. I have no weapons. I came here alone because I believe you are not a monster." For several minutes, neither human nor alien moved. They simply looked at each other across the empty landscape of a dead world. Then Vexthara stood up. Its massive form blocked out one of the suns, casting a long shadow across the ground. Daeho felt his breath catch in his throat. This was the moment that would determine whether he lived or died. The creature looked at him for one more long moment. Then it turned around and walked away. Its huge feet left deep prints in the black soil as it disappeared behind the hill. Daeho stood alone in the alien landscape, alive and unharmed. His hands were shaking slightly as the adrenaline faded. Through his communication link, he could hear excited voices from the command ship. "Dr. Kim! Dr. Kim, are you all right?" "I'm fine," he said, watching the empty hill where Vexthara had vanished. "I'm perfectly fine. What happened? Did it attack?" Daeho smiled inside his helmet. "No, it didn't attack. It listened, and then it walked away. This was not the behavior of a mindless monster. This was the behavior of an intelligent being that was curious about the strange human who had come to visit without weapons or fear. Tomorrow, Daeho decided, he would come back. Dr. Kim Daeho returned to the same spot the next morning. He carried a small folding chair, his recording equipment, and a lunch container that his colleague Park Jimin had prepared for him. The black landscape looked the same under the pale light of the two suns. He set up his chair 50 meters from where he had first encountered Vexthara. Then he sat down and waited. "Any signs of movement?" asked Dr. Lee Sunwoo from the command ship. "Not yet," Daeho replied into his communication device. "But I can feel something. Like someone is watching." He was right. After 30 minutes, Vexthara appeared on the same hill as before. The massive creature stood motionless, studying the human who had returned without weapons or backup. "Good morning," Daeho said into his translator. "I promised I would come back." Vexthara tilted its triangular head but remained on the hill. The distance between them was the same as yesterday. Neither moved closer. Daeho opened his equipment case and began setting up his instruments. He moved slowly and deliberately, making sure Vexthara could see everything he was doing. The recording devices were clearly not weapons. The sample containers were obviously for scientific work. "I brought some tools to help me understand this world," he explained as he worked. "These devices measure temperature, air quality, and radiation levels. They cannot hurt anyone." The creature watched every movement. Its glowing eyes tracked each piece of equipment as Daeho arranged them carefully on the ground. For the next 2 hours, Daeho simply went about his scientific routine. He took readings from his instruments. He collected small samples of soil and rock. He made notes in his electronic journal, all while talking calmly about what he was doing. "The atmospheric pressure here is about 60% of Earth normal," he said. "That explains why everything feels so light. The soil composition is interesting. Very high silicon content. This planet must have experienced extreme volcanic activity in the past." Vexthara never responded, but it never left either. The creature seemed genuinely interested in watching this strange human work. When noon arrived, according to his ship's chronometer, Daeho decided it was time for lunch. He opened the container Jimin had prepared and smiled at what he found inside. Traditional Korean rice balls, some dried fish, and thermos of warm soup. He ate slowly, enjoying the familiar taste of home food on an alien world. The rice balls were perfectly seasoned. Jimin always made the best food on the research team. That was when something unexpected happened. Vexithara began moving down the hill. Not quickly or aggressively, but with careful, deliberate steps. Each footfall left a deep impression in the black soil. Daeho continued eating, though his heart rate increased significantly. Through his communication link, he could hear excited voices from the command ship. "Dr. Kim, it's approaching your position." "I can see that," Daeho replied calmly. Everyone remained calm. No sudden movements from the ship. Vexithara stopped about 20 meters away. Up close, the creature was even more impressive than before. Its black scales seemed to shift and change like liquid shadow. Its breath created small clouds in the cold air. The six-fingered hands ended in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through starship armor. But there was something else. Something in the way Vexithara held itself, not like a predator preparing to strike, more like a curious animal investigating something new. Daeho looked up at the massive being and held up one of his rice balls. "Would you like to try some?" he asked. The question was ridiculous. Here was the most feared creature in the galaxy, and he was offering it lunch like they were old friends having a picnic. Vexithara stared at the small ball of rice for a long moment. Then something amazing happened. The creature extended one of its clawed hands and carefully, very carefully took the food. The rice ball looked tiny in those massive fingers. Vexithara examined it closely, turning it around to study it from different angles. Then it placed the food in its mouth. The creature's reaction was immediate. A low rumbling sound came from deep in its chest. The translator identified the sound as contentment or pleasure. "You like it," Daeho said with a smile. "Jimin will be happy to hear that. He takes great pride in his cooking." He offered another rice ball, and again Vexithara accepted it with surprising gentleness. A creature that could tear through metal was handling human food with the care of someone holding a delicate flower. "My friend Park Jimin made these," Daeho continued. "He uses a recipe that his grandmother taught him. The rice comes from Earth. We grow it in flooded fields under our yellow sun." Vexithara made more rumbling sounds. The translator was having difficulty with some of the frequencies, but the general meaning seemed to be curiosity and interest. "You want to know about Earth?" Daeho asked. The creature's head moved in what might have been a nod. For the next hour, Daeho talked about his home planet. He described the blue oceans and green forests. He talked about the billions of humans living in great cities and small villages. He explained how Earth had seasons that changed the color of the leaves and brought snow to the mountains. Vexithara listened to every word. Sometimes it made questioning sounds, and Daeho would explain further. The creature seemed particularly interested in the concept of families and communities. "Humans live in groups," Daeho said. "We take care of each other. We share food and stories and experiences. No human is ever truly alone." At those words, something changed in Vexithara's expression. The glowing eyes dimmed slightly, and the creature made a sound that the translator could not identify. But Daeho recognized it anyway. He had heard similar sounds from abandoned animals back on Earth. It was loneliness. "You are alone here," Daeho said softly. "You have been alone for a long time." Vexithara's response was a complex series of harmonic tones. The translator worked frantically to decode the meaning, but only fragments came through clearly. Images of vast emptiness, endless time passing without contact. Watching civilizations rise and fall from a distance. "How long?" Daeho asked gently. The answer, when it came, was staggering. "Thousands of years. Maybe tens of thousands." Vexithara had been alone longer than human civilization had existed. "No wonder you seem dangerous to others," Daeho said. "You have forgotten how to be around people, and they approach you with fear and weapons, which makes you defend yourself." Vexithara moved closer, sitting down just a few meters from Daeho's chair. This close, the creature's true size was overwhelming. But instead of feeling threatened, Daeho felt something else entirely. He felt sorry for this ancient, powerful, lonely being. "Would you like me to visit again tomorrow?" he asked. The response was immediate and unmistakable. "Yes." As the afternoon faded and the two suns began to set, Daeho packed up his equipment. Vexithara watched every movement, as if memorizing this moment of companionship. "I will come back," Daeho promised. "Every day if you want." The creature made one final sound before disappearing back over the hill. The translator rendered it simply, "Thank you." Back on his ship, Deho sat in his pilot's seat thinking about what had happened. The most feared predator in the galaxy was not a monster at all. It was just incredibly, desperately lonely. And somehow sharing a simple meal had started to change that. Tomorrow, he decided, he would bring more food. And maybe some pictures of Earth to show his new friend. Dr. Lee Sunwoo arrived 3 weeks after Deho first met Vexithara. Her shuttle landed next to his research vessel as the 2 alien suns rose over the black horizon. She carried specialized equipment designed to study alien psychology and behavior. "Show me everything," she said as soon as she stepped out of her ship. Deho led her to his usual meeting spot. The folding chair was still there, along with his scientific instruments. But now there were other things too. Strange patterns made from arranged stones, crystalline formations that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Beautiful geometric designs that hurt to look at directly. Vexithara made all of these, Deho explained. It creates something new every day. I think it's trying to communicate through art. Sunwoo knelt beside one of the stone patterns. It was incredibly complex, with mathematical relationships that would challenge Earth's best computers. "This is not the work of a mindless beast," she said quietly. "No," Deho agreed. "It's not." They did not wait long. Vexithara appeared on the hill at exactly the same time as always. But today the creature seemed hesitant, its glowing eyes focused on the newcomer with obvious concern. "Hello, old friend," Deho called out in his usual calm voice. "I brought someone to meet you. This is Dr. Lee Sunwoo. She is also from Earth. She studies how different beings think and feel." Sunwoo stepped forward slowly, her hands visible and empty. "Hello, Vexithara. I have heard much about you from Dr. Kim. I hope we can be friends." The massive creature did not move for several minutes. It studied Sunwoo carefully, as if trying to determine whether she was a threat. Finally, it began the slow descent down the hill. But something was different today. Instead of stopping 20 meters away, Vexithara came much closer. It sat down just a few steps from both humans, close enough that they could see the individual scales on its black skin. "It trusts you," Sunwoo whispered to Deho. "Your presence makes it feel safe around strangers." Deho unpacked his usual lunch, but today he had brought extra food for Sunwoo. As had become their custom, he offered some rice balls to Vexithara. The creature accepted them with its characteristic gentle care. "Dr. Sunwoo studies minds," Deho explained to Vexithara. "She helps beings understand their thoughts and feelings. She has helped many species learn to live together in peace." Vexithara made a series of harmonic tones. The translator worked to decode them, but only fragments came through. Images of conflict, memories of violence, fear and confusion from past encounters. "It's trying to explain something," Sunwoo said, adjusting her specialized recording equipment. "Something about its history with other species." Over the next several hours, through patient questioning and careful observation, they began to piece together Vexithara's true story. The creature was not naturally aggressive at all. Every violent encounter in its past had been a defensive reaction. When other species approached with weapons and hostile intentions, Vexithara's ancient instincts took over. It defended itself with overwhelming force because it had learned that showing weakness meant death. "But you never attacked first," Sunwoo said, understanding beginning to dawn. "You always waited. You always gave them a chance to be peaceful." The confirmation came as a wave of sadness so profound that both humans felt it through their equipment. Vexithara had spent thousands of years hoping that someone would approach it with friendship instead of fear. Every time had ended in violence and loss. "Until now," Deho said softly. Through a series of complex mental projections that made their heads ache, Vexithara shared its origins. It was the last survivor of an ancient race called the Vexmari. They had been explorers and artists, beings who traveled between dimensions to study the beauty of creation itself. But their advanced abilities had made other species afraid. Wars had been fought, entire star systems had been destroyed. One by one, the Vexmari had been hunted to extinction. Only Vexithara remained, hiding on dead worlds and trying to avoid contact with anyone. "You have been running for millennia," Sunwoo realized. "Not hunting, running." The creature's response was a sound of profound exhaustion. It was tired of running, tired of being alone, tired of being feared and hated for abilities it had never wanted to use for harm. "What do you actually want?" Daiho asked gently. The answer was so simple it broke their hearts. Vexthara wanted what every intelligent being wanted: companionship, understanding, someone to share experiences with, someone who would not run away in terror or try to kill it. "The galaxy has it completely backward," Sunwoo said that evening as they reviewed the day's recordings. "Every species sees Vexthara as the ultimate predator, but really it's the ultimate victim. It has been persecuted for so long that defensive violence has become its only option for survival." Daiho nodded. "And humans were the first species to approach without weapons or fear, the first to offer friendship instead of hostility." They spent the following days learning more about Vexithara's incredible abilities. It could perceive reality across multiple dimensions simultaneously. It experienced time as a flowing river rather than a straight line. It could manipulate matter at the molecular level, which explained the beautiful crystalline formations around their meeting place. But perhaps most importantly, it was desperately intelligent and desperately creative. The stone patterns were not random decorations. They were complex mathematical theorems expressed in physical form. The crystal formations were three-dimensional music that could only be heard by minds capable of dimensional perception. "You're an artist," Daiho said with wonder, "a scientist and an artist who has been forced to be a warrior." Vexthara's response was the closest thing to crying that either human had ever witnessed from an alien species. Their final day together before Sunwoo returned to the command ship, something remarkable happened. Vexthara created its most complex artwork yet, a crystalline sculpture that seemed to shift and change as they watched, showing scenes from its memories. There were images of its ancient home world, green and beautiful under purple skies. There were scenes of the Vexmari working together, creating wonders that defied imagination. There were moments of joy and discovery and peaceful exploration, and at the end there were images of Daiho, the first being in thousands of years to sit beside Vexthara without fear. The first to share food and stories and simple friendship. "You're not just documenting our meetings," Sunwoo realized. "You're documenting hope." The sculpture pulsed with warm light, and both humans felt a wave of gratitude so powerful it brought tears to their eyes. "Thank you," Vexthara said through the translator, the words clear and unmistakable. "Thank you for seeing me as more than a monster." As Sunwoo prepared to leave, she turned to Daiho with a serious expression. "The galaxy needs to know the truth about this. Vexthara is not the threat everyone believes it to be. It's the solution to something much bigger." "What do you mean?" Daiho asked. "Think about it," Sunwoo said. "A being with incredible power who only wants peace. A creature that could destroy planets but chooses to create art instead. If we can prove that Vexthara is not a threat, we might be able to change how the entire galaxy thinks about fear and understanding." That night, as Daiho sat in his ship reviewing their discoveries, he realized that their quiet meetings on a dead world might be the beginning of something that would change galactic civilization forever. But first, they had to survive what was coming, because word of their peaceful contact was already spreading, and not everyone in the galaxy wanted peace with the creature they had spent so long fearing. Captain Choi Minho had come to extract Dr. Kim Daiho from what Earth Defense Command considered an extremely dangerous situation. His military transport ship carried enough firepower to level a small city, and his orders were clear: retrieve the scientist and retreat to a safe distance. But what he found when he reached the surface of the dead planet made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. The most feared creature in galactic history was sitting cross-legged on the black ground, carefully arranging small metal fragments into intricate patterns. Next to it, Dr. Kim Daiho sat in his folding chair, sketching the designs in a notebook and offering quiet commentary. "The mathematical progression in this section is fascinating," Daiho was saying to the 12-foot-tall apex predator. "You're using recursive algorithms that our computers can't even calculate properly. The way you bend space-time to create these patterns suggests you understand dimensional physics better than our greatest scientists." Vexithara responded with a pleased rumbling sound, then created an even more complex pattern. This one seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles, showing different mathematical relationships depending on perspective. Minho stood at the edge of the landing zone, his hand near his sidearm, watching in complete disbelief. This was Vexthara, The creature that had single-handedly destroyed the Kepler colony. The monster that had forced the mighty Zentari Empire to abandon entire trade routes. The apex predator that had made the Galactic Council evacuate 3 star systems, just on rumors of its presence, and it was playing with building blocks like a child showing off for a favorite. Teacher. Dr. Kim, Minho called out, trying to keep his voice calm and professional. Earth Command has ordered your immediate extraction. We need to leave now. Daeho looked up from his sketching. Captain Minho? What are you doing here? Following orders to bring you home safely, Minho replied, his eyes never leaving Vex Thara. The creature had stopped its pattern making and was now studying him with those unsettling glowing eyes. Command believes you may be suffering from some form of psychological influence. Psychological influence? Daeho laughed. Captain, I'm probably thinking more clearly than I ever have in my life. Vex Thara made a soft questioning sound and moved slightly closer to Daeho. The movement was clearly protective, positioning itself between the human scientist and the newcomer with weapons. Minho's hand moved closer to his sidearm. Doctor, please step away from the creature and move toward my position. I'm not going anywhere, Daeho said firmly. And neither is my friend. Your friend? Minho stared at him. Doctor, that thing has killed thousands of beings. It's destroyed entire fleets. It's the most dangerous creature known to exist. No, Daeho said calmly. It's the most misunderstood creature known to exist. Everything you think you know about Vex Thara is wrong. To demonstrate his point, Daeho reached into his lunch container and pulled out a rice ball. He offered it to Vex Thara, who accepted it with the same gentle care that had amazed Dr. Sunwoo weeks earlier. Minho watched the exchange with growing confusion. The apex predator of the galaxy was eating human food with the delicacy of someone handling precious artwork. It's not possible, Minho said quietly. Sit down, Captain, Daeho suggested. Let me introduce you properly. Against every regulation in his training manual, Minho found himself sitting on the alien ground. Vex Thara watched him carefully but made no threatening moves. Vex Thara, Daeho said. This is Captain Choi Minho. He is a soldier from Earth, but he is not here to hurt anyone. He came because he was worried about my safety. The creature's response was a series of harmonic tones that the translator rendered as curiosity and mild concern. It's asking if all humans are as protective of their friends as you are, Daeho translated. I told it yes, that's one of our best qualities. Over the next hour, Daeho explained everything he had learned about Vex Thara, the creature's true history, its desperate loneliness, its desire for peaceful contact, its incredible artistic and scientific abilities. Minho listened with growing amazement and horror, not at Vex Thara but at what the galaxy had done to it. So every time someone tried to kill it, Minho began. It was just defending itself, Daeho confirmed. Imagine being the last of your species, trying to live peacefully and having every new contact try to murder you on sight. As if responding to the conversation, Vex Thara began creating a new pattern. But this one was different from the mathematical designs. This one told a story. The metal fragments arranged themselves into scenes that clearly depicted spaceships approaching a lone figure. Again and again, the same pattern: arrival, weapons fire, destruction. The lone figure always survived, always alone again. How many times? Minho asked quietly. Vex Thara's response came as a wave of sadness through the translator. Hundreds of times, maybe thousands. Always the same result until now, Daeho said. Until humans approached with curiosity instead of fear. Minho studied the creature that sat just a few meters away from him. Up close, he could see details that never showed in the military reports. The scales were not uniformly black but contained subtle colors that shifted in the light. The eyes were not cold or evil but tired and ancient and hopeful. Command is going to have a hard time believing this, he said. Command needs to believe it, Daeho replied seriously, because Vex Thara represents something incredible. A being with the power to destroy star systems who chooses to create beauty instead. A creature that could rule the galaxy through fear, but wants nothing more than friendship and understanding. Vex Thara made another series of tones, and Daeho nodded thoughtfully. What did it say? Minho asked. It wants to know if other humans would be willing to meet it, not to study it or use its abilities, but just to talk and share experiences. The question hung in the air between them. Minho thought about his own reaction to seeing Vex Thara. His first instinct had been fear and aggression. But now, sitting peacefully with it, he felt something entirely different. I think some would, he said honestly. Humans are curious. We like meeting new people, even if they're very different from us. Vexthera's response was unmistakably hopeful. As the day progressed, Minho found himself drawn into the routine that Deho had established. He shared food with the creature. He watched it create impossible artworks. He listened to stories of ancient civilizations and cosmic wonders. By evening, his entire world view had changed. "Captain," Deho said, as they prepared to return to their ships, "what will you tell command?" Minho looked at Vexithara, who was carefully dismantling its metal patterns and arranging the pieces in neat piles for tomorrow's creations. The simple courtesy of cleaning up after itself somehow made the creature even more remarkable. "I'll tell them the truth," Minho said, "that Vexthara is not our enemy. It's potentially our greatest ally. And if they don't believe you?" Minho was quiet for a long moment. "Then I'll resign my commission and come back here to help you protect it." Vexithara heard this exchange through the translator. Its response was a sound of gratitude so profound that both men felt tears in their eyes. "Thank you," it said in clear, perfect Korean. "Thank you for seeing me as a person instead of a monster." As they walked back to their ships, Minho realized that everything was about to change. Word of peaceful contact with Vexithara was already spreading through Earth Command. Soon it would reach the Galactic Council. Some would see this as an opportunity for peace and understanding. Others would see it as humanity harboring the galaxy's greatest threat. The real test was yet to come, and when it arrived, Minho knew which side he would be on. He would stand with Dr. Kim Deho and the lonely creature that just wanted someone to call it friend. Ambassador Yu Nari stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, facing representatives from over 200 species. The massive chamber buzzed with angry voices speaking in dozens of languages. Everyone was talking about the same thing: Earth's dangerous alliance with the apex predator known as Vexithara. "Order," called the council chairman, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "Ambassador Nari will now explain Earth's actions." Nari activated her holographic display, showing peaceful images of Dr. Kim Deho sharing meals with Vexthara. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Half the council members began shouting in outrage. The other half demanded immediate military action. "Honored representatives," Nari said calmly, "what you are seeing is not collaboration with a threat. This is the first successful peaceful contact with a being that has been misunderstood for millennia." The Zentari representative, a warrior species that had lost 3 fleets to Vexithara, stood up angrily. "Misunderstood? That creature destroyed our ships. It killed thousands of our people." "In self-defense," Nari replied. "Every encounter with Vexthara began with your forces attacking first. The creature has never initiated hostilities." "Lies," shouted the delegate from the Kepler colony survivors. "It destroyed our entire world. According to our research, the Kepler colony fired particle cannons at Vexithara while it was simply passing through your system. It defended itself and left immediately afterward." The chamber erupted in chaos. Species after species stood to demand Earth's expulsion from the Council. They wanted Vexithara destroyed and all humans involved in the contact imprisoned. But the most dangerous voice belonged to High Commander Voss of the Valdorian War Fleet. The Valdorians were the galaxy's most powerful military force, feared by everyone except perhaps Vexithara itself. "The human explanation is irrelevant," Voss declared in his mechanical voice. "Vexithara remains an existential threat to galactic civilization. It must be eliminated along with any beings who would harbor it." "Are you threatening Earth?" Nari asked. "I am stating fact. The Valdorian High Command has already dispatched Battle Group 7 to eliminate this threat. They carry planet-killing weapons and dimensional disruptors specifically designed to destroy creatures like Vexthara." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew about Valdorian battle groups. They were unstoppable forces that had conquered star systems and ended entire civilizations. "How long?" Nari asked quietly. "They will arrive at the creature's location in 72 hours, Voss replied. "I suggest you evacuate your people before then." Nari immediately sent an emergency message to Dr. Kim Deho on the dead planet. His response was exactly what she feared it would be. "I'm not leaving," Deho said through the communication link. "Vexthara is my friend. I won't abandon it to face this alone." "Doctor, you don't understand," Nari pleaded. "This is a Valdorian battle group. They have weapons that can crack planets in half. There's nothing you can do against them. Maybe not, Deho admitted, but I gave my word. I told Vexithara that humans are different, that we don't abandon our friends when things get dangerous. I intend to prove that. Captain Choi Minho's response was equally stubborn. If Dr. Kim is staying, then so am I. My ship isn't much against a battle group, but at least he won't face this alone. News of the approaching Valdorian fleet spread quickly through the galaxy. Most species celebrated, believing that the ultimate threat would finally be eliminated, but a few voices spoke differently. Dr. Lee Sunwoo released her complete psychological analysis of Vexithara to the galactic scientific community. Her report painted a picture of a desperately lonely being who had been persecuted for abilities it never wanted to use for harm. Vexithara is not a predator, she wrote.
It is the last survivor of a peaceful species that was hunted to extinction by fear and prejudice.
Every violent act in its past was defensive. Every death it caused was in response to attempted murder. Some scientists began to listen. The mathematical proofs that Vexithara had created were studied by the galaxy's greatest minds. The artistic patterns were analyzed by cultural experts. Slowly, a new picture began to emerge, but it was too late to stop the Valdorian fleet. On the dead planet, Deho sat with Vexithara as they always did, sharing lunch and conversation. But today was different. Today, Vexithara knew what was coming. You should leave, the creature said through the translator. Its voice carried deep sadness. I have brought danger to you and your people. This is not what I wanted. We're not leaving, Deho said firmly. Friends don't abandon each other. Vexithara was quiet for a long time. Then it began creating a new pattern with its metal fragments. This one was more beautiful than any before, but also filled with sorrow. This may be our last conversation, it said. I want you to know that these past months have been the happiest of my very long life. For the first time in thousands of years, I was not alone. You're not alone now, Deho replied, and you won't be alone when they arrive. Captain Minho's ship sensors detected the Valdorian fleet long before they were visible. 12 massive warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Each one was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could sterilize entire worlds. This is High Admiral Krek of the Valdorian Battle Group 7, came the communication. Human vessel, you have 30 minutes to evacuate before we begin bombardment. Any humans remaining in the system after that time will be considered enemy combatants. Minho responded immediately. This is Captain Choi Minho of Earth Defense. We are conducting a peaceful scientific mission. We pose no threat to anyone. Your presence aids a galactic threat, Krek replied coldly. Evacuate now or be destroyed with it. Down on the planet's surface, Vexithara stood up from its pattern making. The creature looked at the sky where the Valdorian ships hung like deadly stars. I will not let them hurt you, it said to Deho. But what I must do next? You may not like what you see. What do you mean? Deho asked. Instead of answering, Vexithara did something it had never done before. It reached out with its mind and touched the communication systems of every ship in the system, including the Valdorian fleet. When it spoke, every being in the system heard its voice directly in their minds. I am Vexithara, last of the Vexmari. For thousands of years I have been hunted and feared for crimes I never committed. I have defended myself when attacked, but I have never sought conflict with anyone. The mental voice was vast and ancient, carrying the weight of millennia. Today, beings who call themselves protectors of the galaxy come to kill me and the first friend I have found in ages beyond counting. They come with weapons of mass destruction to eliminate what they fear but do not understand. High Admiral Krek tried to cut off the transmission, but Vexithara's mental abilities were beyond any technology. I could destroy your ships, the creature continued. I could scatter your atoms across the void as others have tried to do to me. But I will not. Instead, I offer you a choice. The space around the Valdorian fleet began to shimmer and change. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist as Vexithara demonstrated its true power. You can fire your weapons and attempt to kill me. Some of you may succeed, though many will die in the attempt. Or you can listen to the truth about who I really am and why I'm here. What happened next would change galactic history forever. Instead of weapons, Vexithara offered them something no military force had ever received: complete honesty about its existence, its abilities, and its desperate desire for peace. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready to listen. High Admiral Krek stared at his weapon displays in complete shock. Every targeting system on his flagship had been disabled. not by force but by something far more disturbing. They had been gently turned off by a power that could have just as easily destroyed his entire fleet. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice, "all weapons are offline, but our life support engines and communication systems are working perfectly. It only disabled our ability to fight." Around the dead planet, the 12 ships of Valdorian Battle Group 7 hung motionless in space. Their crews watched in amazement as reality itself began to change around them. Vexthara was no longer simply communicating through their minds. It was showing them something impossible, direct experience of its memories and emotions. The Valdorian warriors, trained to feel no fear and show no mercy, suddenly experienced what it was like to be the last survivor of a genocide. They felt the crushing loneliness of thousands of years without companionship. They experienced the terror of being hunted across the galaxy for the crime of existing. "This is not possible," Admiral Krek whispered. But he could feel it anyway. The desperate hope every time a new species made contact. The crushing disappointment when they inevitably attacked. The necessity of defending oneself against beings who saw only a monster where a person stood. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Kim Daeho watched his friend perform the most incredible act of courage he had ever witnessed. Vexithara was making itself completely vulnerable to its greatest enemies, sharing everything about its existence in hope that they might understand. "You don't have to do this," Daeho said quietly. "Yes, I do," Vexthara replied. "If they are going to kill me, let it be because they choose hatred over understanding, not because they simply don't know who I really am." The mental sharing continued for nearly an hour. The Valdorian crews experienced Vexithara's first encounter with Dr. Kim Daeho. They felt the creature's amazement when the human offered food instead of violence. They experienced the joy of finally having someone to talk to after millennia of isolation. When the sharing ended, the silence across the fleet was deafening. "Admiral," came a voice from one of the other ships. "Are we really going to kill that?" Admiral Krek looked at his weapons display. The systems had reactivated themselves, ready to fire on his command. Vexithara had returned his ability to choose violence, even though doing so put the creature at terrible risk. "Sir?" his tactical officer asked. "Do we fire?" Krek thought about everything he had experienced through Vexthara's memories. The loneliness, the hope, the desperate desire for nothing more than peaceful contact with other intelligent beings. "No," he said quietly. "We do not fire." The decision rippled through the battle group. Ship after ship reported the same choice. They would not destroy this ancient, lonely being who had shown them more trust than they deserved. Instead, something unprecedented in Valdorian military history happened. High Admiral Krek opened communication channels to the entire Galactic Council. "This is Battle Group 7, he announced. "After direct contact with the entity known as Vexthara, we have determined that it poses no threat to galactic civilization. In fact, we believe it may be one of the most valuable allies the galaxy has ever encountered." The response from the Council was immediate chaos. Species that had demanded Vexithara's destruction could not believe that the mighty Valdorian fleet had been stopped not by superior firepower, but by compassion and understanding. But the real change came in the days that followed. Vexithara, no longer hiding its abilities, began to demonstrate what it could truly accomplish when working for peace instead of survival. The creature reached into dimensional space and began constructing something beautiful around the dead planet. Crystalline structures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, creating impossible architecture that was both functional and artistic. Dr. Han Myung arrived with a full diplomatic team to document what was happening. She watched in amazement as Vexithara created living spaces for any beings who wanted to visit. The structures automatically adjusted their environment for different species, providing perfect conditions for humans, Valdorians, Zentari, and dozens of other races. "It's building an embassy," Myung realized, "a place where different species can meet and interact safely." But Vexithara's gifts went far beyond architecture. The creature began sharing knowledge that advanced entire fields of science. It taught dimensional physics to human researchers. It showed Valdorian engineers how to build faster-than-light engines that didn't require exotic matter. It helped Zentari farmers develop crops that could grow on barren worlds. Most importantly, it served as a bridge between species that had been unable to communicate for centuries. Vexithara's multidimensional perception allowed it to understand and translate concepts that no universal translator could handle. Within 6 months, the dead planet had become the most important diplomatic center in the galaxy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds came to meet with each other under Vexithara's patient guidance. But through all of this incredible change, the creature maintained its most important relationship. Every morning, regardless of what cosmic responsibilities awaited, Vexithara would spend time with Dr. Kim Daeho. They would sit together in the same spot where they first shared a meal. They would talk about simple things, the weather, new scientific discoveries, memories of their respective homes. Vexithara would create small artistic patterns and Daeho would sketch them in his notebook. "Do you ever regret it?" Daeho asked one morning as they watched a group of young Valdorian diplomats learning to communicate with a delegation of peaceful Zentari traders. "Regret what?" Vexithara asked, revealing yourself. "Taking the risk of trusting the galaxy with who you really are." Vexithara was quiet for a moment, considering the question. Around them, beings from dozens of different worlds were working together on projects that would have been impossible just months earlier. "No," it said finally. "For thousands of years I survived by hiding and running. I was alive, but I was not living. You taught me the difference. How did I do that? You showed me that being vulnerable with someone you trust is not weakness. It is the foundation of friendship. And friendship, I have learned, is the foundation of everything else that matters." A group of human children, part of a new cultural exchange program, ran past their usual meeting spot. They waved cheerfully at both Daeho and Vexithara, completely unafraid of the creature that had once terrified the galaxy. The children especially, Vexithara noted with obvious pleasure. They see me as a friend before they learn to see me as anything else. Perhaps that is the key to changing the galaxy, teaching beings to see friendship before they learn to see fear. As the two suns set over what was now being called the Harmony Station, Daeho reflected on how much had changed since that first day when he landed on a dead world to meet the galaxy's most feared predator. He had expected to die. Instead, he had discovered that sometimes the most important scientific discoveries come not from studying something, but from simply being willing to care about it. The apex predator of the stars had never needed to be conquered or destroyed. It had only needed someone brave enough to offer it friendship. And that simple act of courage had transformed not just two individuals, but an entire galaxy's understanding of what it meant to choose hope over fear. In the end, that might be humanity's greatest gift to the cosmos, the willingness to see people instead of monsters, and to offer friendship even when it seemed impossible. The galaxy was learning that lesson, one shared meal at a time.